Welcome. Thank you for joining me today on our discussion of leadership. To me, one of the most sought out and coveted attributes that we look for in our athletes and business leaders. All coaches want great team captains. Business leaders want the expertise from their managers, and everyone is looking for the best ways to motivate, inspire, and encourage at the highest levels of performance. However, there are many opinions on what leadership is and how it is developed. In today's presentation, I will discuss some of the main attributes that all leaders possess across every domain. Before we start, I would like to give a little background on myself. My name is Adrian Tapia, and I am based out of Miami, Florida. In my childhood, I lived in Venezuela and moved back to the States by the age of 9. Those years were critical in my development and provided great experiences that would later prove beneficial. For undergrad, I attended the University of Florida. Go Gators. And upon graduation, I embarked on a project of opening a CrossFit gym that 5 years later I still fully own and operate. At the same time, I am pursuing a master's in performance psychology from National University. Before we dive into our discussion on leadership, I thought it would be a good idea to watch a short video of 2 Navy SEALs talking about their experience of leadership that I think will prove to be a good introduction into our presentation today. I hope you enjoy.
I was an instructor. I'd come back from 2 combat deployments to Iraq. Jocko and I had worked together in the Battle of Ramadi, and I was training leaders and teaching the next generation of SEAL leaders. All the students are broken into teams, and so there's 7 guys assigned to a boat, and they're carrying these big 200-pound rubber boats. That's their team, and each one of those boats has a leader. The senior guy in that is the boat crew leader. One boat crew is winning every race, and they get rewarded by sitting out the next race. And another boat crew is losing every race, and they're miserably falling behind the rest of the pack, coming in 50 yards behind everybody else, and you could hear them yelling and screaming and blaming things on each other. We decided to perform a little leadership experiment. We pulled the 2 leaders out, and we swapped them out. We put the leader of the bad boat crew 6, in boat crew 2, put the leader of the good boat crew 2, in boat crew 6, and then we sent them back out there. Lo and behold, the boat crew that was failing, the worst boat crew in the class, boat crew 6, now wins the next race. I didn't even know how that was going to go as we watched it, but it was just a glaring example to me of this principle is actually true. There are no bad teams, only bad leaders. And so it's up to the leader to believe that it's possible for the team to do better, believe it's possible to win, get the entire team to believe it's possible to win, and get them all focused on the mission, working together in order to accomplish that mission. And that's just how critical it is. And Jocko and I worked together in a number of different areas where we saw that happen, where a platoon struggled, a task unit struggled, and you'd replace that leader, a new leader comes in and turns bad performance into good.
What did you think of the video? As I said before, there are many opinions and philosophies of what leadership is and how it is developed. In these Navy SEALs' eyes, there's no such thing as bad teams, only bad leaders. This is why all sports organizations and companies alike want great leaders. But what exactly is leadership? To me, leadership is the action of leading a group of people, a team, or organization. Some of the common traits mentioned when talking about leadership include independent, influential, and innovative, to name a few. Some great examples that encompass these traits are Derek Jeter from the New York Yankees, the late Steve Jobs from Apple, and Bill Gates from Microsoft. They were all considered leaders and possessed all of the mentioned qualities. So we know some examples of great leaders, but the question people always like to ask is if leaders are born or made. What do you think? I am from the school that leaders are made. Today, I want to dive a little deeper into 3 things that I believe all leaders need in order to be successful in any domain. The 3 things they all have in common is that they're all great communicators. They're able to get their teams to pursue a common goal through their effective communication skills. They all have emotional intelligence, which we will discuss shortly. And finally, which to me is probably the most critical attribute, is that they have a growth mindset. As I just mentioned, in order to be a great leader, you need to be a great communicator. Leaders are excellent communicators. They listen more than they speak. and when they speak, they are frequently asking questions to draw out the knowledge and opinions of their team. When you allow yourself to listen, you often hear what is not being said. Leaders can read between the spoken lines to understand the whole context of the other person's thinking and needs. This does not mean that leaders never speak, but it places the emphasis on using the knowledge of the team. It affirms for the team members that their opinions matter and that they are valued. It marks you as a great communicator who cares about what others think. Leaders also focus on understanding what the other person is saying. When a team member is speaking, they don't spend the time preparing their response in their mind. Instead, they ask questions for clarification and to make certain that they thoroughly understand what the other person is communicating. They also listen to nonverbal communication the other person exhibits. When speaking to someone, nonverbal communication is a powerful voice. The tone in someone's voice, their body language, facial expression speak more loudly than the verbal communication or the actual words that they are saying. The person's posture, his or her distance from you, as he or she speaks, are all powerful messengers. This is why leaders and great communicators seek in-person interaction. Leaders know the amount of information that they lose when they communicate via email, through phone, or text. This is very important for the young generation present here today who may not recognize the importance of talking with someone in person. And finally, leaders use a feedback loop. Good communicators will say, "Here's what I hear you say," and repeat the gist of the content of the message that you receive from the other person's communication. Leaders use a feedback loop to check their understanding. When you check your understanding, you avoid miscommunication and misunderstanding. Good communication is not something we're born with. It takes time and practice to develop. We can all be great communicators if we're willing to put in the time and effort. The second trait all leaders have in common is emotional intelligence. Well, what is emotional intelligence? The definition is the ability to understand and manage your own emotions and those of the people around you. People with high degree of emotional intelligence know what they are feeling, what their emotions mean, and how these emotions can affect other people. When you think of a perfect leader, what comes to mind? To me, I picture someone who never lets his temper get out of control, no matter what the problem he or she is facing. I think of someone who has complete trust of his or her staff, listens to his or her team, is easy to talk to, and always makes careful, informed decisions. These are qualities of someone with a high degree of emotional intelligence. For leaders, having emotional intelligence is essential for success. After all, who's likely to succeed? A leader who shouts at his team when he or she is under stress, or a leader who stays in control and is calmly assessing the situation? I think the answer is obvious. According to Daniel Goleman, an American psychologist, there are 5 key elements to emotional intelligence. They're listed on the slide right now. They are self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills. The more that you as a leader manage each of these areas, the higher your emotional intelligence is. So let's look at each element in more detail and examine how you can grow as a leader. The first one, and to me the most important, is self-awareness. If you're self-aware, you always know how you feel, and you know how your emotions and your actions can affect the people around you. Being self-aware when you're in a leadership position also means having a clear picture of your strengths and weaknesses. And it means having and behaving with humility. Next is self-regulation. Leaders who self-regulate themselves effectively rarely verbally attack others, make rushed or emotional decisions, stereotype people, or compromise their values. Self-regulation is all about staying in control. Leaders are also motivated. Self-motivated leaders work consistently towards their goals, and they have extremely high standards for the quality of their work. Next is empathy. For leaders, having empathy is critical to managing a successful team or an organization. Leaders with empathy have the ability to put themselves in someone else's situation. They help develop the people on their team. They challenge others who are acting unfairly. They give constructive feedback, and they listen to those who need it. If you want to earn the respect and loyalty of your team, then show them you care by showing empathy. And last is social skills. Leaders who do well in the social skill element of emotional intelligence are great communicators, which we mention as a critical trait in leadership. They're just as open to hearing bad news as good news, and they're expert at getting their team to support them and be excited about the new mission or project. Leaders who have good social skills are also good at managing the change and resolving conflicts diplomatically. They're rarely satisfied with leaving things as they are, but they don't sit back and make everyone else do the work. They lead by example. Finally, the third and final trait that all leaders must have is a growth mindset. To me, maybe the most important out of all that was discussed today. The fixed versus growth mindset was coined by a psychologist by the name of Carol Dweck. Dr. Dweck talks about the power of our mindset. We could either have a fixed mindset where we let failures define who we are, or a growth mindset where we see failure and setbacks as opportunities to grow and improve ourselves. According to her, we can differentiate the fixed and growth mindsets across a number of dimensions. For example, when faced with challenges, leaders with a fixed mindset avoid them because it makes them feel like they're not talented or smart. They lose interest when the work gets hard, and they give up easily. However, leaders with a growth mindset seek and thrive on challenge. They want to stretch themselves and step out of their comfort zone because they know that's where they will grow and learn. When faced with setbacks, a leader with a fixed mindset will let one single setback, one bad test, or one bad outcome define them forever. They are granting one setback the power to measure their basic intelligence forever. That's why you need to prove yourself each and every time. However, if the leader has a growth mindset when facing a setback, they know that they can't let one single outcome define their ability or their potential. They look at a setback as a single point in time and don't let it forever define their intelligence, their ability, or their character. For example, when NASA selects its astronauts, they reject the people with pure histories of success and instead select the applicants that have bounced back from failure because it proves they have a growth mindset. And finally, when it comes to effort and outcomes, leaders with a fixed mindset believe that success should be won without effort, that you're born with natural talents and abilities, that if you don't achieve something effortlessly, then you're not a quote-unquote natural. These people also put everything on the outcome. If you fail, or if you're not the best, it's all been a waste of time. That is why for them, people with a fixed mindset, hard work and big effort are risky and terrifying because they think that great achievers are people who are not supposed to need effort. And if they fail, all their hard work has been wasted. In contrast, leaders with a growth mindset believe the opposite when it comes to effort and outcomes. They believe you need to work hard in order to achieve success, that it doesn't come naturally. They love what they're doing regardless of the outcome. For a growth mindset-oriented leader, their work is meaningful because they're applying themselves. They're giving their best. They're solving challenging and important problems. It's more about the journey and not just the final outcome. As a result, even if the outcome is not a success, they feel that the effort was rewarding and worthwhile because they were able to grow. People with a growth mindset stretch themselves more, step out of their comfort zone, they think bigger, they take more risk, they learn something new regardless of what the final outcome is, both positive or negative. To recap today's presentation, today we talked about some of the things that make effective leaders. 3 things in specific that we talked about today were being great communicators, having emotional intelligence, and having a growth mindset. Having these 3 things will allow you to be successful across any domain. And I would love to answer any questions the audience may have regarding today's presentation. Thank you.